This conference will now be recorded.
Great. Thanks everyone for joining. Today we have a presentation from Kumaresh about the ingress ACL and egress ACL attributes to tunnel object. Go ahead, Kumaresh.
Yeah, thanks, Chino. Hi, everyone. So this PR adds a couple of attributes to tunnel object where we can attach ingress ACL and egress ACL to the tunnel. And so basically the PR has like the ingress ACL, and then the object types could be like either ACL table or the ACL table group. So this is similar to all the other ingress ACL attributes or egress ACL attributes. In order to support this, we also need to change the bind point type. Thanks to Ravi, I think I added the new ACL bind point type as tunnel. So in this case, like when the tunnel is terminated, then the ACLs can be looked into there for all the tunnel packets. Yeah, any questions regarding this PR?
Okay, so it's actually okay when we're binding ACL table on ingress tunnel, it means that it will be ACL will be applied after decapsulation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and regarding egress, it is after incap, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
No, I got confused there. Sorry. So what happens if there is another ACL table binding on a port on which tunnel is coming in?
Yeah. So in that case, like if the tunnel is terminated, right, and and if there is a terminal action like a drop, obviously like that has, and also like because in the tunnel you also have the ACL table group, right, and ACL table groups can have priorities across the tables. So which has a high priority, that one wins.
No, my question is that today we allow a single ACL group or table binding to object, right, tunnel or a port object. So with this PR, you can have a binding which is on the tunnel, and then you may also have another ACL group or table binding on the port, right? So when tunnel comes in on a port, now you have two ACL object bindings. My question is, then what happens to the port? Are you saying that port object does not take effect? Only the tunnel object having the ACL binding takes effect?
So so in that case, like let's say the packet comes on the physical port, and if there is an ACL associated with that, and ACL actions, let's say there is a terminal action like a drop or something, right? So in that case,
that's not my question. So packet comes in on a tunnel, so it's a tunnel packet, right, on a given physical port, and then after the decap, that's what you mentioned. After the decap, now the ACL will take effect. First, I'm not clear about that it should take after the decap or it should take before the decap. Ingress features typically happen on a pre-decap packet. So that itself, I'm not clear, but let's say I walk with your statement where packet gets decapped, and on the decap packet, now your ingress ACL object takes effect. Right? So if you do that, then you have a conflict, because port also, on the physical port also may have a ACL object binding. So between two ACL objects, right, there are two groups now, and we don't have any priority resolution across groups, by the way.
Yeah, I got your point. So in that case, like which one, because the tunnel ACL comes later, right? So that has a high priority.
Yeah, I think this little bit need to be thought through. I don't agree with the first statement itself that, so in the pipeline, you know, there are ingress features, which typically we look at them as features applied on the tunnel packet itself, right? So if you break the pipeline into ingress features where the tunnel packet is coming in, before the lookup happens, decap is determined, and then the decap packet is forwarded, then the egress features are applied on the inner packet, which is a decap packet. So at least in my understanding, okay, that's what I think Eddie was trying to understand too. That
No, I think it is the intention of this PR, right, to allow binding of ACL on decapped on tunnel in order to match decapsulated packet, right? Otherwise, okay, you can do everything okay on physical port, yeah. But if you are interested, okay, in ACL lookup only packet, okay, coming through tunnel, okay, and not all packet coming through port, okay, it is a way to do it, right? So
but then you can have an egress object, right? Why do you need an ingress object for that? Once the packet is decapped, right?
yeah.
Then you can apply the egress ACLs on that.
Yeah, but for example, okay, I need to do some action, okay, to do ACL matching and to do some action, right? Based on information in inner information, okay. I need to decide, okay, maybe to do redirect or something, some change, right? So it is a way to do for me, okay. So action, okay, final action can depend on information in inner packet, okay. And if, for example, okay, I want to use, okay, for example, on some port, okay, I can get packets encapsulated and non encapsulated, okay, and I want to use the same set of ACL rules. It is a way to do, okay. So
but you can do that even today, right? On the ingress side, you can look at the inner IP header and do the ACL rules.
Yeah, okay. It means, okay, I need to prepare two ACL tables, right? One using inner ACL keys, and another one using outer, right? And this way, okay, can allow me, okay, to use a single ACL table and just to bind to different binding points. And then, okay, you will do lookup on physical port, and later, okay, lookup on inner port, on the inner packet on tunnel, okay, on overlay, for example, for IP and IP.
Yeah, but our SAI pipeline don't have that kind of staging, right? We do a tunnel lookup, and after that, see what you are saying. Let me just clarify that again, right? So to achieve what you are saying, we have to go something called as, you know, in the older times, what we had the two-pass scenario. The first pass is the tunnel lookup, then decam happens, you send it again back to the ingress, and now you have a full ingress features again available again. Now we do all the collapse lookup. We don't do two-pass. You don't even have a space or a stage in the pipeline where after the decap, you again process the ingress features. Right?
Okay.
Because we have an ingress L3 ACL stage, that's on an incap packet. After a decap packet, that stage does not exist. So it creates a pipeline issue. A simpler thing is you just have another ACL table, which is on the inner IP payload.
But so let's say you have like a double incap packet, and if you want to go deep into the innermost packet and check the fields.
Then your proposal does not solve that anyways. Your proposal makes only a single decap assumption.
No, in that case, so let's say you have a tunnel decap, and then you have to go deep into the packet, just the inner packet, right? So let's say if the tunnel is decapsulated, outer packet will go away, and then go inner packet fields, right? So in that case, you no need to go deep into the two tunnel incap.
Right, it's embedded tunnel. Okay, it's also use case that can be applicable here.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. If you are a tunnel in tunnel in tunnel, right? It's the same thing. You are not limited by the tunnel. You are limited by the pipeline's ability to go in the first cell depth, right? Depending on how much of a packet data you got. And if you have that ability, I mean, we have UDFs. We have UDF defined in the ACL where you can extract any depth within the packet using.
Yeah, UDF, okay, it is not ideal solution, right? Okay, so yeah,
but this proposal
it is complexity. Yeah, but this proposal, okay, provide, okay, flexibility, okay, so different vendors, okay, can use it, okay, if it is applicable, okay, and we know that maybe pipeline is different for different vendors. And by the way, okay, it also aligned with SAI behavioral model, right? Okay, so where SAI pipeline, okay, has multiple points where ACL rules can be bound. Okay.
No, this one, I'm usually not very strong in my opinions. This one is breaks the current SAI pipeline definition and creates all kind of problems. We don't have structure. Unfortunately, I will say either you use UDF. That is, if you have an arbitrary offset within the packet, UDF is your friend.
Right? Oh, yeah, yeah. I agree. I completely agree with you. Okay. But if some, okay, I want, for example, I don't know, source mark recently added, okay, and I want to use it, okay, in embedded tunnel in tunnel, okay, we might have, okay, three source mark, okay, and in some cases, yeah, probably you need to go to the inner S mark, okay. So instead of using user-defined data, okay, you can just use ACL and to use SMAC defined in regular SAI API, and just to bind your ACL table to tunnel. So to do it after decapsulation, first decapsulation.
Yeah, no, the basic. See, let me tell you what problem I see with this approach. Right, there are two problems I see. One problem is that our SAI pipeline don't have a concept of any ACL stages after the packet is decapped, right? Our SAI pipeline basically says packet is decapped, it's all primed for doing the egress pipeline processing. Okay, so that's the biggest issue I see. The second issue I see that most of the, you have programmable chips and you can do a lot of funky stuff, right? But most of our, including yours, right, chips do all this collapse forwarding. They don't do tunnel lookup, then another IP lookup inner. So we have collapsed that stage for pipeline efficiency, for the, for shortening the residence time in the chip for the fast processing. So my hardware does not, most of my hardware don't have this, need per se. So just from a concept wise, it's very artificial.
So Jay, like, I mean, internally, I mean, you can do UDF or any other things in the data plane, the ASIC, right? But in the SAI representation, if you just go by the ACL attaching to the tunnel, it really makes sense because it will be easy for the control plane. Everything is kind of like fall in place when you attach the ACLs to
No,
the
coverage. What you are doing, you are basically putting a quirk in a SAI architecture, right? You already have a very clean solution, right? I don't understand why would you not use UDF or even multiple ACL tables. That's why they are designed like that.
No, I mean,
just for ease of use, you don't want to create an architecture which is not right.
No, I understand UDF. I mean, the thing is, you can have like multiple tunnels of like a VXLAN and VGRE, and then both so you can have like a different base and offset, right? And UDF makes more complicated with all these end caps, right? So this is the representation in SAI, right? And the data plane, if you end up in using UDF, then it's good, right? It's not that it's not possible to implement this ACL in the data plane because you have the UDF, right?
No, I don't agree with that statement, Kamlesh. You have a UDF and you will not use it. You will use something else, and internally you want us to express the same functionality using UDF. When in the SAI you have UDF, why would you do that?
No, the thing is, like, I mean, We have the
And then I
VXLAN
think the
here.
bigger point is probably thing which you might want to start with is that how does it affect the SAI pipeline, right? Is there a placeholder for today? My ingress ACL stage, right? The L3 ACL stage, okay, is on a packet which is not yet decapped. Okay, decap happens after the L3 lookup. So if you see the SAI pipeline, so how does this functionality will sit in the SAI pipeline? If you try to represent that, and that question I will not ask. I mean, that question will be asked, that how this affect the SAI pipeline. Then automatically you will realize that this is really not an easy, you have to modify the SAI pipeline. So if you can get a buy-in to do that, then this proposal becomes easy, but you have to first modify the SAI pipeline. How does this fit in the SAI pipeline? I saw the PR and I just wanted to have a discussion on it, you know.
JJ, but SAI behavioral model, okay, I checked it recently, okay, I see ACL binding point several points, okay, so we have one on ingress port and another one after routing, okay, so after decapsulation, right? Okay, so it allows to do it, right? And by the way, okay, performance can be one more reason, okay, to use it. I want to do a ACL lookup, not for all packet coming through port, okay? I want to use it only when packet coming through some tunnel, okay? And this PR, okay, will allow, okay, if my data pipe, okay, supports, okay, I can do it, okay, so much less lookups, okay, so maybe, okay, just fraction of incoming traffic is coming through tunnel, and I will do lookup only for this traffic and not for all traffic coming through physical port.
No, I see. That's the hardware implementation, and we don't worry about it in SAI, right? We abstract it out. That was just for information that now these days we don't do the disaggregated lookup in the pipelines. We could do collapse lookup, but that's a separate point, Eddie. My point is more that if you see the SAI logical pipeline, as you said, that there are various ACL bind points, okay, which are on the ingress stage, and they are called all as ingress, and then there's lookup, and then there's an ACL bind point which is at the egress stage. Okay, now the ingress stage ACL bind point, which are before lookup, they are all on the undecapped packet. They're all on the packet which is with a tunnel header. After the lookup happens, the following stage is on the packet which is without the tunnel header, right? So now what you are saying that I will create another bind point for tunnels, right? Then my question is, in the current SAI pipeline, how it will sit? We still have to define that model, right? What is our that's our contract, and that's where all my fuzziness started. That okay, how this will work? We have to really, truly speaking, then break our SAI pipeline into two steps, where first we do a first pass, do a tunnel processing, do a decap, send it again to the ingress, and then do the second pass on a decap packet. Right? If you can get a buy-in on that, then if you can get a buy-in on that, then that's one way to do about it. But my other issue is that you already have a solution, right? Just because you want to make your control plane simpler, why we are messing up with the SAI specification?
Somebody has can present this current SAI pipeline for this ACL. Maybe we can take a look together and then see if where this is being applied or attached.
Yeah, probably something we have to see and extend it to a proper. Other question I have: what's the use case? I mean, is it some kind of a dash use case, or what kind of use case we are talking here?
Yeah, so this is related to dash. Yeah, smart switch use case.
And current, so just walk with me just for discussion's sake, right? And what's the problem you're seeing if you create a separate ACL table or a UDF for a deep field extraction?
So if you look at the smart switch pipeline, right? So the packet coming to the smart switch with a local ENI, it can be forwarded to the local DPU. Okay, and if the ENI is not local, then the packet has to be forwarded to the remote smart switch, which has the local ENI, right? So in that case, you will have like a double end cap, double VXLAN end cap,
Double
or
VXLAN.
it can, yeah,
Right, right.
double VXLAN, or it could be like NVGRE VXLAN, depends on the scenario,
Correctly.
right?
But even if it's double end cap, right? UDF is a flexible construct. You can go to any depth, right? It provides you, enough sophistication where you can create a match criteria for the UDF extraction. So my question is still that, is it just because we are trying to simplify the control plane, or you see some shortcoming in the current architecture?
No, I think if you look at UDF, I think it can be used, but the thing is, there are other fields which can be. I mean, you can define the UDF and then you can put it in ACL fields, right? But
Correct.
if you look
That's
at
what
if you
we do.
yeah
Yeah.
if you look at the tunnel, I think there are a lot of other packet fields which we currently have it defined in the SAI object by SAI object, which can be represented in UDF, right? But still, we want to have it like easy in the SAI object model so that it can be programmable from the control plane, right?
Yes, see, if there is a shortcoming you see in UDF where you think that enhancing that is helpful, that's probably an easier route, and that we all kind of will help and agree on it, right? That's something which is fitting in the existing frame. If you see there's some fields missing, a match criteria or anchor point is missing, and you need a new anchor point in UDF, right? The tunnel anchor point. I think there was one added by Google, but you can add more, tunnel in tunnel, and then the UDF extraction can happen from there.
It can also simplify control plane, as you mentioned. Okay, so you don't need to duplicate your ACL rules, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so using the same set of ACL rules, okay, just binding in different points, right?
Yeah,
Right.
from control plane point of
yeah,
view,
it's because okay, yeah, some packets okay coming to smart switch okay can be with one VXLAN tunnel and some okay with double VXLAN tunnel okay when it's coming yeah, for I know high availability okay it's coming it's double encapsulation.
yeah. So Jay, like there are a lot of use cases where UDF could be complicated because of double, triple end cap, right? So from SAI representation, it is just like a ACL. We already have all the fields. So the only thing we have is like the bind point, right? So the bind point, if we do it as part of the tunnel, then it really makes sense. Instead of adding just at the port ACL, put UDF all over the place to match all the fields, right? So this is easy
No, it's
from
not.
control plane as well.
It's not. I'm still not getting it, Kamresh. Is it? It's not all over the place, right? I mean, UDF is
So
just
there are
like
multiple fields, right? It's not just like one or two fields. It can be like many fields.
how different it is from. I mean, how different it is from ACL. ACL also has multiple fields, right?
Yeah, so
I'm
that's
not
so that's why
getting.
like if we have the ACL,
Uh-huh.
then from control plane point of view, you can just have like source MAC, DMAC, inner IP v4, inner IP v6,
Correct.
inner L4 source port, and L4 destination port. So there are so many fields that if you want to match, then the control plane it's really complicated, right?
So okay,
And one of
let me understand. So because I was not clear. So you are saying if you use UDF, because UDF when it extracts the information, it's opaque data essentially, right?
yes.
So for different inner fields, you have to create this opaque data 1, opaque data 2, which will correspond to source MAC, DMAC, or inner VXLAN ID, etc. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then you have to use that opaque data as a match
Yes.
criteria in the ACL entries.
Yeah.
By the way, different vendors can have hardware limitation for number of UDS, right? Okay, it depends how it's implemented in ASIC. Okay,
Yeah.
True,
so
true.
Yeah,
True.
because
And,
I mean there are a lot of simplification that we have done in SAI pipeline, right?
right,
So
and again, performance. Yeah, I'm interested, for example, in applying some ACL only for packets coming through tunnel, not on physical port. So it is a way to do, right? I don't want to look up every packet, okay, coming through physical port.
no, I agree with you. But Eddie, the construct of applying a ACL table on a tunnel is before the decap. You are flipping it. If you go and look at any documentation, any Cisco documentation, Juniper documentation, their OS documentation, you will see when the ACL table is bind to a tunnel, then it's applicable before the tunnel decap, not after the decap. You're flipping it on the head. And that's what the issue is.
It very much depends on vendor, right? Okay, on
No,
the
not vendor.
implementation
That's
of
the
that
classic.
data pipe, okay?
Yeah, no, that's a classic definition of ACL on a tunnel, right? You are creating a new definition, and I'm not saying that you don't have a use case for that, but it's a completely new. That's not how ACLs on tunnel are looked upon. So what you are saying, you now need basically a disaggregated pipeline where after the decap, you still want an ingress set of features, right? Which is your ingress ACL now.
I'm as a user, yeah, again, it depends on the capabilities of pipeline. And I'm as a user would like to apply lookup only for packet coming through tunnel, okay? And so different pipelines, okay, can have different implementation. Someone support, someone not support, okay? So it just provides flexibility, and then Sony can provide some query capability, and if it is not supported, okay, so code can use another way, right?
Right. No, I'm okay, but I think the first thing we would like to see is that how this is represented in the logical pipeline. Whatever you are suggesting, what is logical pipeline representation? That's the first thing, right? And I do understand your motivation, and that's what my first thing was, that are you looking for Dash? Right? And Dash is a little bit more complicated.
It is not only Dash, okay? We Dual Tor, okay? I know, okay. In Dual Tor, we also have, okay, some issues that can be resolved with that. Okay, in Dual Tor, between Tor IP and IP tunnel, okay, some traffic coming through physical port and some through physical port, but from standby Tor, so it's IP and IP encapsulated, and
that we solve through using the ACL tables, right? We have a resolution of an inner tunnel, and if you want to go beyond that, then we just use UDFs, right? So that dual Tor, even we support it, right? So
yeah, but again, okay, if you want to use the same set of ACL rules, okay, regardless, okay, if packets coming through physical port encapsulated or not encapsulated, it can help, okay, to simplify control plane.
Yeah, I think this one probably, we need to have a little wider discussion with other vendors also. The first thing is that how do you see it in a SAI pipeline? What's the mapping of this construct in SAI pipeline? And if we are able to cleanly map it, then our conversation becomes a lot more simpler.
Okay, yeah, I think maybe I can have like a separate discussion with you.
Yeah, I think probably other folks might be of interested too, because it impacts other vendors too.
Yeah, I'll include everyone. But I think so one is like a ease of use in the control plane, which can be and one other thing is like in the port ACL, if you want to just put UDF for all the fields, right? Then it's kind of like the ACL table itself, the key is like a wider, right? It will become too wide, and if you want to have like a very minimal match only for the tunnel decap packet, then you can have like only less number of fields. That is also possible with this scenario, right?
Yeah, no, I
And
agree. That's also possible, right? Because
yeah,
you have already started the outer header. The
yeah.
only, let me simplify our conversation. The only
Mhm.
concern which is there is that today our SAI pipeline don't have a concept of applying an ingress stage ACL table after the packet is decapped.
Okay, I think, yeah,
Don't
maybe
have
we
that
can discuss,
concept.
and if you want to extend the pipeline to have ACL lookup after tunnel decap, then
Right.
we can
So
have a
we
discussion.
probably have a little bit of a discussion because we all look at the pipeline and that becomes our contractual agreement. It simplifies the things. So we can focus on that and see how this model fits, right? And then whether given hardware supports or not, that's a capability. That's a little easier problem to solve.
Yeah, yeah, because the thing is, it is a representation in the SAI, right? And underneath, ASIC vendors can have like a
Correct.
different kind of
Correct.
implementation, whether it's a UDF or like some other
Not
mechanism,
UDF. I mean, you
right?
might want to do a two-pass processing, right?
Yeah. It's a different, yeah, different mechanisms, right?
Right.
So, okay, yeah, I think I'll take it as an action item, and then
Yeah, and
we'll
also
schedule a
all
call.
the other arguments which you will, like the shorter key widths, the use
Yeah,
cases, right?
yeah,
We'll put a document which helps us understand. I mean, on the face of it, it looks like a two-line change. That's always the case.
yeah. I think one is I understand UDF, because I mean UDF is always very hard to represent in the control plane side, right? And also, I mean, if that is the case, then we no need to have so many fields in the ACL object, right? We can represent everything in UDF and then push it to ACL. But this case, like it will be oversimplified to the control plane, and that will be like very easy to represent how to program the ACL entries also.
Right. So another, I mean, so you were saying another thing which occurred to me on, especially on the key width. I was just thinking that,
Yeah,
how do we solve this problem? So
yeah,
if you
yeah.
see in the SAI pipeline, there is a stage called as a pre-L3 lookup stage. Right? There's an
Okay.
ingress lookup, there's a pre-ingress lookup stage.
Yeah.
So pre-ingress lookup we use typically to qualify the outer header fields and then assign a metadata, right? Which is essentially some kind of internal some ID, which is much more compact, 16-bit white field, and then use that as a match criteria for the actual ingress ACL table lookup. So we break it into two parts. So instead of using outer SAP, outer dip, outer proto with the inner SAP, inner dip, inner proto, we take outer all the Q set, map it to a given ID, which is only 16-bit wide, still gives you 64K namespace, and then use that as a match with the inner fields. And that's how we optimize the key width. I'm just telling you
So,
that problem
okay,
is a problem. We already solved it.
so that lookup, like, do you also carry the mask and everything, or like just the exact match?
You can carry the mask. I mean, it's up to it's not a mask. It's not a bit field. It's a value. So 1664K values. So you choose a value. You don't need a
So
mask.
it's a exact. So it's an exact match in that case, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's
Okay.
how we solve the problem of these very wide fields. Wide keys which can get generated for the tunnel packets. And that's true whether it's tunnel in tunnel or tunnel in tunnel in tunnel.
Yeah. So in that case, again, the same question of like simplifying the control plane, right?
Yes, simplifying
Yeah.
control plane is a weak argument, and you know that. Whenever we don't put architecture around the implementation.
No,
Right?
I understand, but the overall SAI representation itself is also like one of the easy way to have it in the control plane. That's also one of the point, right? It's not just the data plane representation, and so that we can simplify the control plane and common across multiple vendors, right?
I put
Okay,
some
yeah.
document, okay? Yeah, you can see later maybe, okay? There is SAI proposal ACL document, and it mentions binding ACL rules to tunnel objects, okay? But it doing it, yeah, only to overlay reef. Yeah, you can see here.
Do you want to share?
Yeah, I put it in chat. Okay.
Okay. Should I?
Eddie, I made you presenter. If you can share that on the screen and walk
Yeah.
through,
Okay.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Just a moment. Yeah, it's here. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
Are you sharing? Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so this document is about what SAI access control list enhancement. Okay, and it talks about binding points, including tunnel, and okay, it also mentioned binding to tunnel object. Yeah, but here it allows tunnel attribute underlay or overlay interface, right? So
Yeah, it
so
does. It does. This one all it does. But again, as I said, it does. It means that these binds are before the tunnel is decapped, not after. Your use case is after the tunnel is decapped. That's where
no,
all the
otherwise I don't see any motivation for such binding, okay, to tunnel object if you
same thing
use.
like what you said earlier, Eddie. Exactly. Only for tunnel packets, I want to have the ACL, take effect, not for the packets coming on the port, not the non-tunnel packets.
Yeah, right. To bind or apply ACL table to tunnel implies that the user would like to filter traffic that ingress or egress the tunnel overlay interface or underlay interface. Okay.
Correct.
So yeah, so new binding point. Okay, it's explicitly, yeah, think about tunnel overlay interface. Okay, so internal packet, right?
Right.
For example, after IP and IP tunnel is decap or incap, the packet will go through overlay reef or underlay reef respectively. To simplify binding point for tunnel, the ACL model does not introduce any new attribute. Okay, so here it was without introduction of new binding point, okay, just using
It's on the
existing
overlay
object.
or underlay riff.
Yeah, overlay, underlay, okay. Now this PR, okay, providing more generic point, okay, it's tunnel, okay, that actually implicitly mean that it's about overlay reef after decapsulation. After decapsulation for ingress ACL and after encapsulation for egress tunnel.
Right.
So Jay, so in that case, like if we attach the ACLs to overlay riff, right? Then it's kind of like representing the pipeline, right? That's after decap.
It's not after your ingress direction or egress direction.
The ingress.
No, it's not after decap. It's before decap.
So actually, okay, let me.
Should not be like.
I mean, think about it. That in the
Mm-hmm.
pipeline, you have ACL stage before the L3 lookup, right? If you do till you have not done the L3 lookup, you have not done the packet decap, right? So if you assign it at an overlay tunnel bind point at an ingress stage and lookup has not happened, then how will you be able to apply ACL on the decap packet? And that's why we do this inner payload and all that interesting stuff. But it's doable. I mean, if this is a strong use case and Dash needs it, we have to just extend our pipeline, right? Just say that, there is a concept of features
Oh yeah,
which
I mean,
exist after the packet is decapped, right?
yeah, I think I can go over the feature. I mean, if you want, I think I can
No,
go through
I know the Dash
in the-
features. I know the
Yeah,
Dash features, right? Yeah.
yeah.
I think let's put and I think right now I see in the meeting that probably I'm the only one. We need other vendors from Intel and other places as well to have opinion on this. Maybe they might have some better idea. And I've also not think it through. It was just an initial thought. So we need to have a little bit more discussion on it.
Okay, yeah, I think I'll take an action item and then we'll schedule another call.
We can have an
NVIDIA.
offline meeting if needed.
Yeah.
But make
I'll
sure
schedule.
other vendors are present as well.
Yeah, I'll include NVIDIA and Cisco and
Cisco and Marvell.
Yeah, Marvel. Yeah.
Intel. Okay, all right.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, very, very good discussion we had. Yep. Okay, bye.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.